So, welcome to this program, General Puri. You were the one who was leading the 8 Mountain Div that time as a Major General in the summer of 1999. We are exactly around the same time we are talking to you. Just give us a sense of how 8 Mountain Division got pulled into the Kargil war or Kargil conflict in the month of May, I suppose, in May 1999?
1st of June, right.
1st of June, okay. But that preparation would have started a little bit earlier. So what were the circumstances under which you were told, and what happened that time?
Thank you, Nitin. Lovely being with you again.
Thank you.
Now, I took over in 98,
right.
in March 98.
Okay.
So I had been about a year in command of 8 Mountain Division.
Yes.
We were located at Sharifabad.
Yes.
And given the task of counter-insurgency operations in North Kashmir.
Right.
I had my headquarters, Sharifabad is on the bypass to Gulmarg, Srinagar, Gulmarg. And we had done pretty well for ourselves as far as controlling the insurgency was concerned. In fact, there was a talk during the war game of 99, a famous war game of April 99,
yes.
where I was told by the army commander that since the situation is well under control, I am thinking of pulling out a brigade at a time and sending you to your permanent location, which was Doda, Kishtwar and Bhadarwah.
I see.
So, I had done a recce of that area also in January 99.
Okay.
And so we were quite anticipating that in June, the situation would cool down and perhaps one of the brigades would get de-inducted. As soon as the war game got over in early May, there were indications of some movement in the Batalik Yaldor area.
Right.
And this did strike sort of a bell in the relevant headquarters.
Yes.
By mid-May, it had become clear that this was just not a mere infiltration by a terrorist or something like that. It was seems to be an intrusion.
Right.
And the Corps Commander General Kishan Pal, he was on leave. His wife was undergoing an operation in Pune, so he was on casual leave at that time. And by the time he came back, the situation was becoming, though a bit hazy, was appreciated that there seems to be some problem in this area. I had gone out to Mao for a talk to the senior command corps, and when I came back, I spoke to the corps commander in the evening. I said, the situation seems to be quite bad, and you may consider moving 8 Mountain Division. He said, I have this uppermost in my mind, but it requires a certain amount of planning, because to upstick a division from the counter-insurgency grid would create a vacuum which would be very difficult to fill up again. All that is, all that good which has been done would go waste. So some time, obviously, to move a division is not an easy sort of a decision. So the corps headquarters, command headquarters, army headquarters took about 10 days by the time they could come to the decision whether to induct 8 Division or 6 Division, which was the Army Headquarters Reserve. 8 Mountain Division, incidentally, was the Command Reserve, though deployed in counter-insurgency operations. So, around the 3rd week of June, the Corps Commander rang me up.
3rd week of May, sir?
May, sorry. 3rd week of May.
Right.
The Corps Commander rang me up and he said, be prepared to move to Dras to assume control over the Dras-Mashko sectors. By 1st June or so. So I started my reconnaissance. Meanwhile, after coming back from Mao and seeing what the situation was, I had given the warning orders to my headquarters to be prepared. But it was quite evident that at a certain stage we would be required to be inducted.
Right.
So I think we went on a reconnaissance, my Colonel GS and I, Colonel Sharifabad, who later on retired as the Master General of Ordnance. We went to Dras, saw the situation firsthand, came back, made our tentative plans, and on the, I think, 25th or 26th, I was told in the evening that the tasking has been reshuffled and 6 mountain division will be
I
called.
see.
So I said, fine, decision is a decision.
That's
So,
right.
but the next morning at about 6 o'clock, the
Mhm.
corps commander rang up. He says, you better come to the helipad and the chief is here, the defense minister is here, and we'll be flying out to Matayan and you can come back from there and
Right.
we'll be pushing off to Kargil.
Okay.
So the Colonel GS organized the chopper and we were there at about 7 o'clock. The defense minister was on board, the chief, the army commander and the corps commander, myself and GOC 6 mountain division. We all were in the helicopter. We got on at Matayan and the Chief General Malik took me aside and he said, would you be able to take on this operation? I said, yes. I mean, that's, you don't have a choice in these things and you shouldn't have a choice
Yes.
because, I mean, it's war just comes once in a lifetime.
That's right.
So I said, yes, of course. And, but I told him very nicely, I said, sir, we would appreciate if there is no pressure on us and the casualties are going to be high seeing the type of terrain in which we are going to operate. He was very generous and very understanding. He said, yes, go ahead. There will be no pressure. And he kept his word.
Right.
Right till the end, he kept his word.
Yes.
And so did the rest of the commanders down the chain.
Right.
So I was given the orders to assume command of Dras and Mashko sector on
Right.
1st of June. And then the induction of the division started from about 28th or 29th.
Right.
You know, when you go back, your battle procedures and all have to be done. I had tentatively made out my plan. I had visited the brigades.
Okay.
So I knew what was to be done.
Yes.
But nevertheless, passage of this information to the
Units,
battalions,
yeah.
they also have to regroup to understand, lift themselves from a CI grid
Right.
to conventional operations.
The
And
mindsets have to
total-
change,
Yeah,
yeah.
mindset, everything has to change.
Even the equipping would have changed.
Equipment has to change. We were short of equipment, but that is a subsequent point
That's
which we can cover up.
Yes.
But nevertheless, time is required for, reorientating yourself from counter-insurgency operations to conventional. So that's how I was given the task. Yeah.
So 1st of June you moved into thing basically.
Yes.
I mean, I will come to the actual battle and the plans and that you did, but the mindset that we spoke about, even your own orientation and your own decision to get into conventional battle would have had to undergo change from CI ops to this. What went through your mind that time when you assured the chief that yes, I will do the job, but you must have thought about it quite a lot.
See, I had about 8-9 days before that,
Right.
10 days before that, and I used to keep thinking as to how to approach this task if
Right.
I was given this task. And you have been in this area,
Yes.
and once you cross Zojila,
Yes.
you see the enormity of the terrain.
That's right.
It's you're awestruck by the type of the terrain which is there.
Absolutely.
High mountains. We were operating at 6,000. Now Dras is at about 10,000.
10,000 feet, yes.
But the operating heights would be about 15,000 to 20,000,
Plus,
and that's
yes.
where we went.
That's right.
So a lot of change has to be there in your way of thinking. And counter-insurgency is a different ballgame.
Correct.
You don't know you're fighting against your own misguided brethren, so-called
Yes.
countrymen.
Correct.
So it's a different sort of a set of procedures which the troops are accustomed to a different fighting concept.
Right.
And they have to transform, the battalions have to transform, their battle procedures have to be reoriented,
Absolutely.
their battle drills have to be refined. So all this, goes through your mind as to how are you going to approach this
Right.
operation.
So what was the first thing you would have done? Logistics you would have also thought about?
Yes, logistic, there's just a single road
Right.
which was being highly dominated by the enemy.
Right.
I mean, the civil convoys which were carrying the winter stocking for Leh were not allowed to move
Yes.
during the daytime.
Right.
And we could only send a trickle, a couple
night,
of
yeah.
vehicles at night. So logistics was a big problem. To induct a division with so many battalions and artillery and your guns and ammunition and all, it was a logistically quite a challenge.
Sure.
But nevertheless, slowly we had an excellent staff, the Colonel Adam, Colonel GS,
Right.
outstanding guys, and they ensured that the induction took place smoothly, without any accidents, without any problems.
Exactly.
And
Because even today when you go to Zozila, sir, and when you cross Zozila,
Yeah,
it's
it's,
still a formidable challenge,
formidable,
quite a
yeah.
formidable challenge to do it 25
25 years
ago.
back,
25 years ago when the road was narrower.
narrower and
you know, all that
at the
was-
same time of the year,
Exactly.
by and large.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. And I
just a
think
week earlier.
you were lucky. I think that time India was lucky that the pass had opened
That was
up
the
early.
biggest,
Yeah.
biggest benefit which we had, or the advantage which we had, which Pakistan never anticipated in their plans. They thought, it will be difficult for the Indian Army to send any reinforcements from the valley to this place,
Right.
because of Zojila Pass.
Correct.
But perhaps they didn't. They underestimated the capability of the army.
Sure. And also I think the weather favored us that
Weather
time.
favored us. The opening of the Zojila favored us.
Right.
So all these things. But
So-
by and large, we had a very smooth induction.
No, exactly. And I
And,
think once that happened, as we saw, I mean, I went there again around 2nd of June. So coincidentally, I came from Guwahati all the way. And I, of course, came from Leh for the first time when I came. And one realized that, the challenge was to first estimate how much of the enemy is sitting there. I think that was your first challenge.
That was the
Perhaps.
biggest challenge.
Ah.
In fact, after the induction, we were quite blind
Right.
as to where was the enemy. The holding formation there.
Yes.
No, I'm not blaming them
No,
or
no,
anything.
yeah, I'm aware.
They were not fully aware as to what is the type of opposition which they were
That's
facing.
right.
So we sent out our patrols. We got photographs, air photographs. The unfortunate thing was there, the scales of the Air Force and Army were not matching. So to see a bunker on a aerial photograph and to correlate it to a ground, a normal map,
Right.
became a bit of a difficult task. But nevertheless,
Yes.
within about 4 or 5 days, we had some idea as to where the enemy was. And Tolaling was a very big sort of opposition,
Sure.
which 18 Grenadiers had tried earlier, but
Right.
they were not able to make any headway.
Sure.
And the enemy was dominating us, so day movement was not possible. It was only at night.
Right.
And so finally we did get an idea of what was the opposition like. And finally when we calculated, there were about 5 NLI battalions in that area.
That's
you
right.
know.
Yeah. So, I mean,
The frontage of the entire intrusion was about approximately 130 kilometers.
That's right.
That's between 3 div and 8 div.
Correct.
The whole of that
Yes,
area.
absolutely. Right up to Khalubar and
Khalubar and
Gokarthang,
all,
they
yes.
were there. And in fact, beyond that, they
That
also
5.5207 and
they
all,
went up
yeah.
to that, and even in the subsector Hanif,
Correct.
what was
That's
later named as
5 to-
subsector
yeah,
Hanif, they
correct.
went right up to that place. So, that was a major
It was a
task.
very, very large frontage which
Correct. Had
had
to be
been
evicted.
intruded upon. And but we did get a somewhat. You see, Tolaling was the deepest intrusion,
Right.
which was about 4 to 5 kilometers from the highway.
Yeah.
And they were the ones who were constantly interfering.
Right.
They and their neighboring localities, Three
Yeah.
Pimples
Yes.
and
Yeah. Exactly.
Black Rocks
Black
and all.
Rock, yeah. Exactly.
They were the ones who were actively interfering with our movements.
Movement, yeah. So we'll come to that in a moment. We have a map also. Hopefully, we have the correct map. We'll talk about that. But one final question before we move to that. When you moved into Matayan first as your the Dev headquarter, and then of course you shifted it to Moghalpura, the shift was necessitated because of some enemy action there. At
Yeah,
Matayan?
we had captured Tolaling, which I'll talk about.
Yes,
later,
yeah.
On the, I think 13th June.
Yes, sir.
Was when we got the first success,
Correct.
and which really turned the tide in our favor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when we captured Tolaling, the Prime Minister was to visit us, to give a shabash to us.
Right.
He was visiting Kargil,
Yes.
and from there he was to fly into Matayan,
Matayan, yeah.
where my headquarters was located.
Right.
Now, overlooking Matayan was the enemy .4875.
Right.
A very dominating feature.
That's right.
Now, I had, not even thought in my wildest dreams that
They would
though
be
we
there.
were under his very nose,
Right.
it was a mistake on my part to go and locate the headquarters there. But since this was a logistic area
Yeah.
on which we had to build up initially.
And there was a much wider area there if you
yeah,
really
yeah,
see.
and this was the logistic communication area, you know, when we got inducted.
Yes.
But later on I realized what a stupid thing it was to have located the headquarters,
Okay.
right, more or less under his very nose, you know.
gaze,
Yeah. So he blasted us very badly. I mean, he let us have it with all the, and we didn't even realize that he had moved 120 mm mortars,
Oh my God.
man packed them, mule packed them, and brought them to 4875.
Right.
Because for 14-15 days till the 13th of June,
Yes.
he had not responded, he had not opened up on
Nothing.
us since,
Correct.
you know, we were there since 1st of June. But
Yes.
then when he shelled us,
Yes.
then the first thing was, of course, to tell the Prime Minister not to come here. And then we had to move to Bogolpura,
Which had, of course,
which
behind
was
a feature.
Yeah, behind,
that-
it was in a defile.
That's right.
So we went,
So that was the thing. So we'll talk about that on the map now. We will stop here. But fascinating stories, and you know, it's. I always feel that there's a sense of serendipity in most of these things. I mean, who would have thought when you were operating in the valley that you would have had to go to?
yes, exactly. A year back, I don't know, a month back, I wouldn't have even dreamt of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and once in a lifetime, war comes
Yes,
there.
yes.
So, when you look back 25 years later, what is your sense? Of course, satisfaction, but otherwise also.
You know, it's along with satisfaction, there's a lot of, I mean, an emotional loss when you realize so many lives have been lost.
Yeah.
You know, I literally remember the time I used to shake hands with these young officers and men.
Right.
I used to go and give a talk to them. And by the time you came back in the evening, you went to the ops room of the formation and to the brigade. And when you were on the listening watch of what has happened, then you suddenly realize that Vijayant has been killed, or you know, Gupta has been killed,
exactly.
or all these guys.
Yeah. So that emotional loss, of course.
Emotional loss. Vikram has been.
Yeah,
you know, you come to then realize that what is this war worth?
correct.
Because
And it always takes a toll on young men.
So you do feel sad for the lives which have been lost under your command.
And of
But
course,
that's a part of war, you
have
can't help
written
it.
in your book, I remember that it was thanks to the young officers who led from the front and the Jawans.
Definitely. I think the victory in Kargil we owe to the youngsters. You know, the ratio was 23:1. One officer to 23 men, which is a very, very high ratio.
Very high, yeah. Exactly.
Whereas it should be 1:36 or 37.
Right.
It was 1:22, 23. Very high ratio.
And I think only Indian Army could have done this.
Yes, I mean, they just led from the front, irrespective. Now Vikram, for example,
That's right.
he had fever that day. He was not well,
Correct.
but nevertheless he realized
Volunteered
that,
to go, yeah. And he had done an operation earlier.
yeah. Same Anuj Nair and all these youngsters, and the men, and the, you know, you have Hawaldar Diginder from 2 Rajdev.
Correct. Yeah,
He is very vocal on the social media.
I met two of them in 13 Jackrif, one Veer Chakra winner, both Veer Chakra winners in fact. They have survived. But they were young men that time, you know, going up and doing that. Now one of them has become a JCO. So it's good to see that also, you know.
Yeah, like I meet Yogendra Yadav
Yes.
and Sanjay.
Yes.
Yogendra Yadav retired as honorary captain.
Yes, absolutely.
Very, you know, it gives you a sense of
of
pride to see these.
Absolutely.
He was a young soldier at that time.
That's right.
When he got his PVC.
Correct.
And similarly, Sanjay. He's a Subedar major now.
Yes,
and
correct.
I'm sure he'll get his honorary. He must have got his honorary rank. I'm not aware.
Yeah.
But excellent work done by these people.
So we'll shift from here to the map now, and thank you for you know, all that recall that you've done right now. But we'll do more on the maps right now. So here we are, sir, in front of this little large-scale map, starting from Srinagar, going right up to Leh. So when you moved from the valley, Zozila was a formidable challenge in that sense for induction.
Yes.
And how was the situation that time, weather-wise or otherwise?
See, the weather was not too bad at that point of time. But like you rightly said, Zojala was a challenge.
Yes.
But fortunately for us, and the Border Road Organization had done a commendable piece of work. They had opened this pass in early May.
Right.
as against, early June or
In those days, it used to be that
yes,
norm.
Yeah, it used to be about 15 days, 20 days early they had opened this pass, which was a fantastic feat.
Correct.
And which, facilitated our induction. Otherwise, Zojila, as you know, you've been there many times,
Yes.
is a bottleneck and it can delay you for hours together.
Yeah.
And particularly at that time, you have landslides at times you have to spend the night also there.
Absolutely.
So this fortunate...
and I can say that even this time when I went back again in April and May, of course now they try and open it in April, the landslides or the melting snow makes sure that you're stuck.
Yeah, you're stuck at least for 1 or 2 hours. You're stuck still.
Exactly. So we also, when we were traveling from Srinagar to Dras, twice it happened with us. In fact, so the third time we went from Leh. But this was your general area of operation from this place from Dras.
Basically, this is Dras. Bashko would be somewhere here.
Yeah. So
from here till
this one
here
would be
was
here to here was your thing when you went. So these distances now,
would be about 25-30 kilometers.
kilometers.
Say if I take it from the Kabul Gully was my western boundary.
Right.
And Buth Kharbu somewhere here was the interformation boundary.
Correct. This was 3 divs.
This became 3 divs and this became 8 divs right till Zojila.
Right. And so this here you are, your first location for your headquarters.
When we moved, Baltal is the place where the Yatra, Amarnath Yatra
begins.
route takes off. Anyway, now from Solamag, you come to Baltal, you cross Zojila, you cross Gumri.
Yes.
Mogulpura, and then you land up at Matayam, which is a bowl actually.
Right.
It's a very wide bowl.
In fact, there is a picture that we have. So now this is the bowl.
Yeah,
this is the Matayam bowl.
It's a very nice place for a headquarters to be, open ground and
Correct.
And that's this was also the logistic area for the Corps had established this logistic area for communications and logistics.
Yes.
So when I came, I plonked the headquarters over here.
Yes.
Now this is Matayam. This is somewhere here is 0.4875, which, as you see, it had dominance totally over this.
Completely.
But since we surmised that they don't have artillery guns, and we were out of their small arms range.
Yes.
So we accepted this.
Yeah.
It was foolish on my part, and I definitely admit it. But we realized this on the 13th of June.
Which you mentioned, yes.
Yeah, which I had mentioned. And then we had to shift to Mogulpura.
So then this one now, Mogulpura of course has a large, even now
exercise
area.
I think it was somewhere here.
Yes, that is how.
Yeah, very
but,
nice.
So exactly, you went into the kind of behind the feature.
Behind the
feature. But now coming to this, now this is what gives the entire area.
See, that is 5140, Hum, Tololing, Marpola, Sandotop, where the
correct.
16 Grenadiers headquarters used to be there earlier.
And this is of course the famous Tiger Hill.
Famous Tiger. This is the 2 Naga objective, and this was the 79 Brigade.
From Mashko, I think they were looking at this. Now Tiger Hill and Tololing here, again when we go back to this, when I see, now look at Tololing, sir.
Yes.
This is Tololing. Now Tololing and Tololing was the deepest intrusion.
Deepest intrusion. See, this is Dras, and the road would be running something like this.
Yeah.
In this alignment. And this is Tololing.
Yeah.
And from here, they were intimately sort of dominating the national highway.
That's right. This is the national highway.
This is the national highway. Yeah.
Exactly.
So with the result, the civil traffic was unable to move. We were doing a winter stocking for Leh Garrison and CHN.
Correct.
So it was a very sad state of affairs at that point of time.
So you actually had to win back Tololing at that
because
time.
that was the first priority.
Right.
Of besides the division, it was the army's first priority to capture Tololing so that we could freely, open the access.
That's right.
And carry out the winter stocking because winters were 6 months away.
Absolutely.
5 months away,
correct. So that was your first success as far as Tololing was concerned.
Yes.
Tiger Hill also, of course, became famous because it was right there.
Because it was, but it had, except for its domination, except for the feature itself, the domination of the feature. Tactically, it was not interfering with any of our movements. But since they could have easily, sort of directed the artillery fire
That's
onto
right.
us.
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
way, for that
So
reason,
these
it
other
was-
places also became very important. So one of the key questions which comes up in when I interact with common people, they always ask, what is the difference between a watershed and a ridge line? So if you can just tell us.
Watershed would be, the one where, as the name is suggesting, where the water drains to either side. So that becomes the watershed.
So that would be the highest
the
point?
highest peak.
In the range, basically.
In the range,
In the
yes.
range. So like Tiger, it could be a watershed.
It could be, but generally it's a defined continuous
Okay.
ridge top.
Right.
Which,
And these are
these
the
are also
smaller
ranges. Or,
ranges. So when
if you have snow on them,
Yes.
and if they are independent, if now
Right.
you showed the Sando,
Yes.
on the other side is the Gultari River.
Gultari, yes.
So
Exactly. Now here also, and like you mentioned about the importance of sustaining the logistics and the rations. Actually, this is where Siachen is, east of Saltoro.
Yes. I mean, this is where we are located.
That's
Saltoro
right. Saltoro is what we are actually holding. And,
Fortunately.
Fortunately, yes. Yeah, I think that was one of the proactive operations in 1984.
yes.
So that's what happens. Now this shows the
These are the series of ranges.
Yes.
This is the Ladakh range.
Yes.
The Karakoram was not
all
really
part
effective.
of it. Yeah.
This is the Ladakh range, Zanskar, and the Great Himalayas.
Yes.
And then you
of
have
course,
south, you have the Pir Panjab range,
which divides Jammu and
divides
Kashmir,
the
basically,
Jammu and Kashmir.
the valley. So this is
And
where
when you cross, say,
Yes, I'll go
no,
back.
it's all right. When you cross Zojila,
Yeah.
you see these. You're awestruck by the peaks and the ranges and the heights
Correct.
and the terrain, the
That's
barren
right.
terrain. It just
Yeah.
you get a sort of feeling
Awestruck by the
awestruck by this.
I mean, you
Absolutely,
can see this actually, like you said, and every time I go there, it always fascinates me that we won back our young jawans and officers, won back these formidable features.
I think the debate quota was here somewhere.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sure. So we spoke about some of the units and some of the.
Incidentally, I left my hut over there for.
Really? Okay. I must next time when I go.
I
must
don't know
see
whether
that.
somebody must.
No,
have
I think
removed
they
it.
still go and do exercise. We just saw while we were coming back, they were doing some exercise now. Now, like looking at the operations now when we go back and see or we recall those operations, what was the toughest of the operations now?
I think all were tough because we suffered heavy casualties in every operation.
Right.
But Tololing, since this was the first operation,
That's right.
it had there was a sense of nervousness in everyone. We took 12 days to prepare.
Right.
Since I said I'm not going to take a chance.
Yes.
And we had to build up the artillery. We
Right.
got the Bofors from the planes.
Right.
We had to build up their artillery ammunition. So took a better part of a week to do this. And then the troops to home onto their battle drills and battle procedures.
That's right.
So finally we chose 12th as the date
Right.
for Tololing. And
I wanted to ask you about the role of the artillery in the Kargil war because I think Bofors really came into its own in the public perception, at least, as very effective weapon. How did that work out?
I think artillery was a battle winning factor along with our young officers and men.
Right.
They did a tremendous piece of work. We first got the idea of using this. So I had asked the corps commander to send me a 25 pounder or a 75, 24, RT gun over there for direct firing.
Right.
But we couldn't lug it to place the gun where it could engage the target. The range was less than what the gun's range was.
Right.
So we came up, then the CRT came up, Likhwinder. He came up with this idea of using the Bofors in a direct firing role.
I see.
So, there's a place, there's Tolling top. Somewhere here is the, what do you call, supply point.
Right.
Dras supply point.
Yes.
So we took the gun there and 18 grenadiers was at Tololing, short of Tololing, south of Tololing.
Correct.
The CO was there.
Yes.
So we told him we are going to fire a round very close to you. Just
be careful.
No, be careful and see how effective it is going to be.
Right.
When we fired the round and the CO said it's got tremendous effect,
Okay.
then we said, okay, let's go for it.
I see. So, and the first time it was used in direct firing role.
First direct fire. I mean, this was a new concept which really.
And of course, the other artillery units and the entire plan worked very well.
Very well.
Because when I go back and I took some of these people like then Lieutenant Colonel Y.K. Joshi, later Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, Brigadier Kushal Thakur, who was then the CEO of 18 Grenadiers. All of these people said this, that the initial thrust which the infantry was going up, and after that when the artillery started firing, it made a huge difference.
Huge difference. And you see, That's why I said we wanted the artillery in adequate numbers.
Right.
We wanted the ammunition so that we don't look over our shoulders.
Right.
And that's why those 12 days were taken to build up this
Yes.
logistics and
Exactly.
cater for the first attack.
Right.
All resources were pumped into the two Rajrif. Two Rajrif incidentally had a brilliant commanding officer,
Yeah,
the late
Ravindranath,
Ravindranath.
yes.
Yeah.
No, in fact,
He
I
was-
stayed with them maximum
Yeah.
because they were posted.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they initially suffered a lot of
A lot of
reverses.
casualties also.
Lot of
you know,
casualties.
lot of casualties.
Yeah. But he turned around the
Acharya,
unit.
Acharya
yes,
died.
Padmapani Acharya,
Gupta,
yes.
Gupta died
Correct.
over here,
That's
Toraling.
right.
Acharya died.
Correct.
Vijan Thapa died.
Absolutely.
They suffered very heavy casualties.
That's right.
And,
But later he actually
but,
turned it around.
Turned it around. When he got Toraling on the 13th morning,
Right.
I rang him up at about 6 in the morning from Dras.
Yeah.
I said, how's it going? He said, sir, we have not been able to reach the top. So I was a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
So, though everyone's focus was on Toraling.
That's
And I said, oh God, if you can't capture it now, again, it will be a very difficult task to go and capture it.
That's right.
But by the time I reached my headquarters at about 7, I get a call from Amarwal, who was the
Right.
brigade commander. He said,
Yes.
Toraling top has been captured.
Excellent.
And Ravindranath, he's just exploited a weakness
Right.
of the enemy and he charged with a platoon
Right.
and finally we captured this.
Yeah, I think that was a turning point.
That was the turning
But looking at the other side's planning and other side's, this entire operation that they had come in, when you look back now, where did they, they of course did this brilliant tactical intrusion, whatever they did. What went wrong for them ultimately?
I think their initial plan was brilliant.
Right.
If they had succeeded, we would have not been able to recapture this area. The winters would have set in, they would have consolidated the gains,
Right.
and this area north of the Indus and this part would have been lost forever.
Right.
So where they faulted was, I think, in their leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Our commanding officers, company commanders, right in front.
Right.
They had they suffered the privations with the men.
Yes.
It's not that they were sitting
behind somewhere.
Whereas the CO of this battalion was sitting in Skardu.
The NLI battalion.
NLI battalion. So that difference in leadership was there.
Right.
And when after the operations, when we used to still have after the ceasefire, some interaction on the telephone, flag meetings was taking place, and the JCU said that our officers just didn't play up. And he says, you all are still getting good monetary benefits for those who are martyred.
Right.
In our case, it's not even recognition that we've been fighting a war over here.
Right.
So I think the leadership was very poor. At the
At
lower
the
level,
cutting
of
edge
course,
level, yeah.
and everywhere.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That was very poor, and they didn't see through the entire operation, the end stage of the operation. So that is, I think, two major faults with.
So that shows that one must also have the termination of operation plan in your mind.
Yes, and they had obviously not the determination, because finally when they were sitting on dominating heights.
Right.
They could just throw stones at us at times. They did.
It did, yes.
But it was the sort of bravery and the devotion and enthusiasm, zeal, everything.
That's right.
All these young officers who led their men right onto the top.
Correct.
If you ask any of the Western armies or any other country as to the MAs came to see this.
The defense
area.
attaches, the military attaches.
Yes. All of them came to Dras.
Right.
And I briefed them on the ground, and they were astonished. They said, it's unbelievable how you captured these
Exactly.
heights.
Because this kind of thing no army can think of.
No army can think of. 18,000, 20,000
That's
feet
right.
you're going and capturing.
So that's where I think General Musharraf's plan about,
Yes.
that's always been Pakistan's weakness, I think, if
Always,
you look at all our
yes,
wars.
always. And it was hastily planned,
Right.
without taking the politician on board, without taking the naval and the air force chiefs on board. So it was a, ill-planned operation.
Right, right. One final point I just want to check with you. There has been a lot of talk about what role did Air Force play. They came in only around 25th or 26th of May.
Yeah.
What was the help that from the Air Force that you could get that
See,
time?
earlier the Air Force had reservations,
Right.
which was also right, because they did not want to escalate the war to a level where,
Sure.
we would be having an
All
open
out war,
confrontation.
yeah. All out war.
So, but later on when the orders were given to them,
Yes.
they did a good job. Like us, they were not trained for this type of
Right.
warfare.
Correct.
Their weapons were inadequate to tackle these sort of heights.
That's right.
But they finally, it was a big morale booster for the ground troops.
Sure.
You know, you see our own aircraft going.
Right.
It was a big morale boost. But we had our own problems, you know, like the terms of reference which were given, you can't cross the
LOC.
line of control.
Yes.
Now, if you see the
Yes.
terrain is going from south to north
Right.
or north to south.
Yes.
Now, in case the Air Force had to be effective,
Right.
they would have had to go from south to north
Absolutely.
and then
Yeah.
cross the line of control,
Correct.
which was not acceptable.
That's right. LOC.
Grain of the country is,
Yes.
you know,
Right.
going north to south or
North to
south to
south.
north.
Correct.
So this was the line of attack for
Right.
the,
For the Air Force.
south
Yes.
to north.
Correct.
If they had to engage targets over here, you know, right
Yes.
on these heights.
Yes.
And the minute they engaged the targets, they would have crossed the LC.
Correct.
Which was
Which
not,
was not
which
allowed
was
politically.
not,
that
politically,
was not
it was
there.
a term of reference.
So, but finally, they did play up in.
They did play up, and they
yes.
played up beautifully. And you know, just to have your own air operating over your
Correct.
head.
Initially, they also suffered that
Yes,
Mi-17,
yes,
that
yes.
Stinger missile being
Correct,
used.
correct. They also, you know, like us, took time to get used to the high mountain warfare.
Right, correct. But lots of lessons from there now. Finally, what are the things that we have learned since then?
I think intelligence is a very big, which we have learned, I think, and today the intelligence is far superior to what it was 25 years back.
In terms of surveillance,
Yes,
boat
yes, everything,
reconnaissance.
yes, everything. You know, you have satellite imagery and all these things
Right.
readily available right
Yeah.
down to headquarters now.
Right.
So sensors have come into the army. You have, you know, real-time sort of information as to what is happening. So I think intelligence is a very big induction. Modernization has taken place
That's
of
right. Night vision also.
night vision
is-
devices. Everything, your weapons have improved. You're
Yes.
getting new weapons. Your the young officer still retains that, you know, enthusiasm
Yes, of
and
course.
the energy to go and again and lead his men.
And one of the things that I found this time was that, you know, we are now deployed right up to Khalubar and Kukarthang in this sector,
because
which wasn't there.
Eight mountain div
Yeah.
it got deployed after the
That's
war.
right. Now it's
Yeah.
completely taken
It's
care
now
of
fully
this
taken,
entire
yes, yes.
You know,
Right
this
from
area.
Kabul Gully
Yes.
onwards, it's
Absolutely. Up to
Deployed,
Butkarbu
yeah,
and beyond,
Butkarbu, yes,
up
yes.
to Nimu, I think they're there.
yes, yes.
So after the war, you took the division to Nimu, is it?
Yes, I took it to Nimu, the headquarters to Nimu,
Right.
and we had the Kargil brigade.
Right.
Then we had brigade at Bhima,
Yeah.
192 brigade,
Yes, yeah.
and then we had
That's right.
56
Yeah,
at
it was here,
Dras.
Da, Biyama, Garkon,
Bhima.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, Daha was
Da
where,
was
but we shifted it to Bhima.
Biyama,
somewhere,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. No, now of course it's there, 192 brigade is
The
there
192
now.
was there at that time.
That
also,
time.
yeah.
So that was the that time. So this period 25 years ago, there was so much of activity
yeah,
there.
today is we were preparing for you know, our first attack on Tolu.
Tololing, yeah, exactly. Today is 8th,
Yeah.
and it happened on 12th and
12th
13th.
and
Yeah,
13th,
exactly. No, so no, it's wonderful to sort of get you and to tell us what happened at that point in time. One final comment from you I require. Having learned those lessons, and now 4 times we have, or 5 times we have defeated Pakistan. Each time we have foiled their designs. A lot of people now say that, you know, Pakistan is of no consequence. China is your main adversary. Would you endorse
Yeah, I
that?
think that is correct. But nevertheless, you can't neglect a country like Pakistan.
Right.
I mean, they've got a professional army.
Correct.
Their leadership may be faulted,
Yes.
but the army remains, their men are highly professional.
Mhm.
As good as our men, if you know,
Right.
our men, of course, are superior.
So-
But nevertheless, it's a match.
Right.
You can't write off an army just because they
Right.
lost. I think
the only difference is that the leadership there did not accept the
Correct,
losses that
correct,
time, and
the
you had to
losses.
bury the Pakistanis.
Yeah, we had
yourself.
140 burials which we did of the Pakistanis with full military honors.
That's right.
We airlifted or we took our helicopters, by helicopters, the Maulvis
Yes.
who performed the last rites.
Right.
And it is highly commendable, I think, which Pakistan till, I think about 10 years back, was in a state of denial.
Correct.
Even now,
of
I don't
course,
think they fully
No, they don't
acknowledge
fully
that,
accept it, but that is what is there. So, 25 years later, I'm sure you will be visiting
Yes,
during
definitely,
Vijay Divas,
yeah.
you will be going there. When you look back, you mentioned that time satisfaction, of course, the sense of loss that you had. What would be your message to the current lot which is guarding these formidable
I think they are
frontiers?
doing a tremendous piece of work.
mhm.
Despite all the hardships which you have, of weather, terrain, they are doing a fantastic piece of work.
Right.
And I think the, the country should be confident and happy that you have such an army defending their borders.
We are in good hands.
Very good hands. Very safe and good hands.
Yes. Good to know that, and thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in and
Pleasure
giving
being
us
with
this.
you always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.